Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Mindset Teaching Outside the Box. We are your hosts, Jillian Willie.
And Eileen Edwards.
And today we are going to continue our conversation about mindfulness and different mindful tools. Eileen, what are we talking about today?
Today we're going to pick up where we left off. We had talked about a mindful body, mindful listening, mindful breathing, mindful seeing last time, or mindful eyes. And so this time we're going to talk about being mindful of our thoughts. So the next tool is actually bringing mindfulness to our thoughts. Our mind naturally comes in interrupting. It's just part of being human. So a lot of people call this the monkey mind. And that really seemed to help my own personal children and students. So that's kind of what we've called it. We need to bring awareness, though, to those thoughts and be able to bring our attention back to one of the tools that we find helps us connect to the present moment.
When you say that, are you referring to the tools that go with mindful listening, breathing, all of those, or are there specific tools for mindful thoughts specifically?
Well, both. Wasn't going to talk about that one just yet, but I can. So when we notice our thoughts, notice that monkey mind, that initial just bringing awareness to the thoughts is this next tool. It's just noticing them, noticing that they're happening, that they've rudely interrupted, allowing them the space to be there and letting them go. So there's that like basic mindfulness tool of noticing the thoughts, being mindful of the thoughts, but then being able to bring yourself back to the present moment. So most people will do it with one of the other tools like mindful breathing or mindful listening or mindful of like the sensations, like mindful body, sensations in your body. So that is typically the tool that someone will kind of latch on to, one of the other basic ones. But there is a kind of more, I wouldn't say more advanced tool. It's just an additional tool to kind of help with the being mindful of our thoughts. And that's called noting our experience, or some people call it labeling. And so that might look like and sound like a thought coming in and the person in their mind silently saying, thinking. And then they hear sound in the next room, hearing. And it's just putting very basic labels, not judging anything, not forcing anything away, just noticing that it's there. So it could be hearing, seeing, thinking, feeling. It might even be like breathing in, that ability to just note that at that moment you're breathing in. That's what's coming up for you. Breathing out, noting that that is what's coming up for you in the present moment. So that's kind of, that's the next tool that my class is going to do, actually, that just noting of the experience. And it really helps with that basic tool of becoming mindful that the thoughts are happening even.
I think that's a really good one. I think all of these are really good. And I think that's a really good one when, and we've done a lot of talking in other episodes about manifestation and the law of attraction and the other laws of the universe and, being positive and all of that. And this one in particular, I think connects so well to that, because it is being mindful of what you are thinking. So, not judging and not feeling bad about it or anything like that.
Yeah.
Just having that awareness, and then you can kind of take it to the next level and say, well, did something trigger me? what am I doing right now? If it's something that you're having any kind of thought about that you don't like, or other things are coming in, then okay, well, maybe I don't want to do this again. Or maybe when I'm in this situation, I'm going to try to be mindful and direct my thoughts elsewhere, or whatever it is. But I think that goes hand in hand and can be really helpful in that manifestation process and bringing things into your reality that you would prefer to have rather than not.
Yeah, and this particular tool of noting or labeling, I didn't really understand at first because I heard that strategy over the first year of my mindfulness journey, but probably sometime in the second year, I tried an exercise where for like 30 minutes, that was the tool that I used. So for 30 minutes, I just gave a label to each thing that occurred. Again, nothing specific, but breathing in, hearing, feeling, anything sensation wise that kind of was coming up. You don't want specifics. You don't want to say hearing the car outside because that's more thinking. But just noticing that in this present moment, I'm hearing something and it happens to be the car, or in this present moment, I'm feeling happens to be the fan on my skin. But so it's just that big. And for 30 minutes, I just went from, and then there were some times where I wasn't saying anything, very minimal, because usually the thoughts would come in and I'd be like, oh, thinking. And doing it for that chunk of time for me made me realize that in that like 30 minutes that I was mostly in the present moment, because even if I was noting that I was hearing something or feeling something, or breathing, that was happening right now. And so I was, really present. And I did label thinking when it came up. But again, it wasn't any judgment or pushing away or negative or positive. It was just one word, thinking,
Mhm,
which allowed me to kind of let it go.
mhm. I love that. At first I was thinking, like, would that be hard to do? Would it get to like be almost too much to do? But as I'm thinking about it, I'm like, maybe not, because it does center you into the present moment and just brings awareness. I do see
Mhm.
how that could definitely be very beneficial. And
Yeah.
then
And
once
it's not something that you would do in your like, you would do all day long.
just when you're
Just,
trying to be mindful of your thoughts and
yeah, it's just
bring
more
yourself
so being able to, it's to be using it as a tool.
back.
So like if you were really stressed out and finding that you couldn't focus on the present, that you couldn't maybe get out of your head or whatever, or a student is having anxiety, this tool is very helpful um, when there's like panic happening, um, because it gets the person, child, adult, doesn't matter, gets them to start thinking about um, their sense perceptions. What is it that I'm hearing? What is it that I'm seeing? What is it that I'm feeling? Um, what am I smelling? Do you know what I mean? Like just
Mhm,
getting them fully into the present moment.
mhm. That makes a lot of sense. I I definitely can see how that would be helpful. And even just thinking back to, I'm kind of thinking about my past week and some of the moments I've had where I've kind of stopped and brought myself, recentered myself. And I'm looking at my notes from last week and then, what you're saying now. And I feel like these are great if you try them all out and then kind of figure out what works for you, what you enjoy the best,
Yeah,
and if
exactly.
that's like your go-to, then that's a game changer. I mean, that could really change your life.
Yeah. And for me, I think I might have said this before. when I first started, like everyone was telling me about the breath, like that was going to be my tool, and it didn't work for me. It really stressed me out that it didn't work for me, that I couldn't focus on it. I was so much in my head. And so then I started learning about, mindful ears and mindful listening, and started being able to, okay, I can anchor myself on that. Can't do it on the breath, but I can do it on that. So I think even like having, like knowing that it might not always be the same, you'll probably find one that you find most helpful and like your kind of go-to thing, but then knowing the others, because like in my case, like otherwise you get stuck on one and then it's not working one day for whatever reason. Um, you know, it's good to have, a backup or two.
Mhm. Absolutely. Absolutely. And it makes sense. I mean, everyone is so different. To have choices and to know what's out there makes sense. And even, moment to moment, as we change, as our surroundings change, as different things are happening, it makes sense that some things might work for us in certain situations and other things might not. I'm really excited to continue teaching this to my class.
Mm.
This past week, we did mindful listening. And I actually posted in our Facebook group, I had found a very quick, it's like a minute and 30 seconds, mindful eyes video. And I posted it. So anyone who wants to go in and check it out, come join our group. But it was so great and it was nice and quick. But then we talked after about how they felt. And this was later in the week. We spent a week just practicing and talking about mindful. Wait, did I say mindful listening?
Yes,
I'm sorry, I meant mindful seeing. I'm
that's
so
okay.
sorry. I was looking, that's what I'm looking at on my notes here. No, it was mindful eyes. That's what we started with. So it was towards the end of the week that I showed them that video, and we did the exercise in the video. And I asked how they felt, and they all said they felt calm and they had noticed different things in the room that they'd never seen before. And it was really cool because it was a moment of calm in, my class of second graders who are also high energy. And it just kind of showed them and me the power of it was such a simple mindfulness strategy, but it was so powerful and it was so quick how powerfully it worked. So I'm excited to introduce the other ones to them as well over the next few weeks. But it's so easy and it's so effective.
Mm, it really is. The next one is sending loving kindness. That's kind of the phrase that I use, because I do it a lot when I lead meditations. Um, there are practices like in Buddhism that call it metta, and some people call it like a kind intent, kind intention. But for me, I kind of have always called it loving kindness practice or a heart practice. Um, this one, I wasn't sure how it was going to go with my class. I have fifth grade this year. So I have like 10-year-olds, a few 11-year-olds. And it's definitely something that when you first do it, if you've never done something like this before, thankfully I've done it a bunch, but if you haven't done it before and you're not really familiar with the way energy works and how it travels and all of that stuff, I wasn't sure if they were going to be like, yeah, okay, Miss Edwards, like whatever, nope, not doing that. But they did so good. So the way it works is you actually bring someone, you get yourself kind of calmed down, obviously. So they can use a mindful body or a mindful breathing or something, but just temporarily, like really just quickly to kind of get them into the present moment. And then this actually is a mindfulness tool because they're going to be completely mindful of where they're directing that kindness, that intention, that energy. And they bring to mind someone who they actually see every day and that like makes them happy. So it's something that, you know, kids can relate to, because even if they're having a bad day, um, they can typically bring to mind, and you kind of give them some options. You might say someone that you live with or someone that you just see every day. And you can kind of even say, you know, maybe it's your mom, maybe it's your grandmother, maybe it's your neighbor, maybe it's your best friend, you know, like just kind of giving them some ideas. But the thing is, you want them to bring someone to mind that they actually already are going to find easy thinking about love and kindness with. So they notice the feeling that they have in their heart. So we focus on like the feeling in the heart. We talk about things um, like maybe it feels like it's getting bigger, maybe it feels like it's getting warmer, maybe it feels like it's, you know, opening. But then noticing those feelings, and then they fill that space, they fill that heart space with kindness to the point that it almost feels like they're going to burst. And I remember that when we were doing this the first time with this class, um, like I had I don't want to say worst because it's not a bad thing. Like, I guess I could say the best case of goosebumps I think I've ever had in my life. I was like, holy cow. Because I was like, I wasn't sure how they were going to react, but my skin was telling me how they were reacting. So you're just supposed to bring that feeling to where you almost feel like you can't take it anymore. And then they send it. They send that loving kindness in the form of phrases. And they send them to whomever the person is. I still have goosebumps. My goodness. And so it might say it's their mom. We did things like, may you be happy. May you be healthy. May you be safe. May you be at ease, or may you be at peace. When I do it with adults, typically I give them a couple of examples, but then tell them to kind of do what works for them. So they might change them. But with the class, I pretty much gave them those 4 basic ones and had them do that. I said, you know, you can just say it silently in your head, which I think also helps because they didn't have to feel like anybody was looking at them or knowing what they were saying or doing. It just, they did it. And then we took that same idea and sent it to ourselves. So we did the 4 phrases with ourselves. And then we did the 4 phrases for like many beings. So I told them that they could send it to our class specifically, or they could send it to all the people in our school, or they could, if they wanted to, they could send it to everybody in the whole world. But just slowly working through those 4 phrases, bringing happiness, you know, positivity. But what I love about this heart practice is not only does it bring happiness and positivity like outward, but it also like brings it back to yourself. So that's why it's really a mindfulness practice, because it really is getting you right into this moment, into like your feelings, like how you feel. And it's changing in most cases how you feel in that present moment. And so the thing that I think is hard for people that are new to this, including children, to understand is that energy does travel. It does go out and change things. It can reach the people that you're sending it to. It can reach a lot of people around you. And in our case, because we're a collective in our room, you know, we're all in there and doing it together, it was going out to all of the kids that are in the room. I didn't hear a peep, like not even a fidget or nothing that entire time, because they just were, you know, focusing on sending it, and that feel good
Mhm.
feeling.
I love that. I was really interested in this one because I mean, I know what I know what loving means and I know what kindness means, but I was curious how you wrap it up and, use it as a mindfulness tool. So I am so excited to try this, not only for myself, but with my class as
Mhm.
well. Um, and I can feel how powerful that would be. I've done meditations that are centered around giving love to yourself and other people, and they were very powerful. So I can definitely feel how that energy, especially being in a group, because it does build and have a big impact. Not to say one person can, of course, one person can make a big impact as well.
Oh yeah.
So I'm excited to try that. And I think it'll be really powerful and exciting to see.
Now I
And
wanted to like share after, to be like, I sent it to this person. I sent it to that person. Like,
mm,
I have goosebumps again. It was really powerful
mm,
for
mm.
them.
So
And I mean, I
that's
think it's something
beautiful.
that's definitely needed in this world. So
And two, just the fact that, I mean, it all starts with us. So I think it's really powerful that when you send love out, you're also sending it to you. I mean,
yep,
your world is a reflection of you, of us.
yep.
So it's all connected. And when you love you, I know we've talked about this before, but when you truly love yourself, your whole world changes. So no matter who you're directing the love to or the kindness to, it's going to come back and reflect in you as well.
Mhm. I always find that having people start with someone that they find easy to love and care for is best, because
Mhm.
many people, and it's sad to say, but even children, they really do have a hard time thinking about being able to send that kind of feeling to themselves. It's sad. I mean, adults for sure. I think that's a big struggle point for many adults. Um, but I think kids, just because, the environment that they live in, and they see kind of that their parents might not be taking care of themselves, and then they might be a little uncomfortable themselves, kind of being like, oh, may I be happy? Like, so we start with getting that feeling, that heart opened up, and getting that feeling and energy out there with someone that they love, and then bringing it back to themselves. But in the whole process from beginning to end is bringing love and loving energy to themselves. But getting in that habit of, wishing ourselves to, you know, love and happiness and kindness,
Mhm.
peace.
Yeah. And then
And
that's what you're attracting too.
yeah,
You're
and
thinking
with
about love.
adults that I sit with, I even have them bring someone to mind that they find challenging,
Mhm.
bringing them into their awareness, bringing them, visualizing them, or just bringing them into their heart center, however difficult it is. But then doing those phrases, regardless of my, you know, thinking of you, may you be happy, you know, regardless of my challenges with you, may you find peace.
Mhm.
And it can really strengthen our ability to kind of be kind to everyone.
Mhm. Yeah. I feel like that's a really good next step. Like, advanced level 2, once you can give
I
it to
didn't,
people you
we
love.
didn't do that as a class, but that's what I do in my meditation sessions.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah. And I totally love that. And I think too, when you think about it, people who are hard to love, they're doing whatever they're doing for a reason that they're dealing with on their inside. And what they
Mhm.
need is love.
Mhm.
So while it can be challenging to think about it that way, if we kind of go in and think about a time where we were at a low point and we just wanted love, that's where they're at. So that can be a way to
Exactly.
kind of think about it that might make it feel a little bit easier.
Yep. Exactly. Exactly. Do you want me to go on to the tool that builds off of a mindful body, or not sure how
Sure.
long it's been?
Yeah, let's go ahead and
Okay.
we can end. That'll be our last.
Okay. All right. So we already talked about that leveling up the mindful of our thoughts with the noting and labeling tool. Leveling up on the mindful body would be the practice or tool of doing a body scan. And my class this was our tool this past week. And what I like with the body scan is not only does it bring you to a mindful body, which we already know, but it really is more intensive practice. So it's not just being mindful of whatever may come up, but it's more so guiding them, or eventually they can do it themselves. I told them it's a body scan is an amazing tool for someone who is struggling with sleeping. It's amazing for that. So my class has said, every kid raised their hand when I said, has anybody had trouble sleeping? Every hand went up. My own children have struggled with it over the years. One now doesn't, and the other does. But even last night, when she woke up in the middle of the night, not feeling well last night, she is, you know what, I'm just going to go in my bed and go do a body scan. Good idea. But it's like taking a trip through your whole body. And kids can relate to that, going on vacations or on a field trip, So I told them they can start from the bottom or the top. It really doesn't matter. But they're either going to go from the toes to their head, or they're going to go from the top of their head to their toes. Either way, whatever works for them. Some teachers do it one way, some teachers do it another. But going slowly and at kind of like a rhythmic pace of each location. So being mindful of their toes if they started at the bottom, noticing anything that they might feel in their toes. Is there any motion? Is it active, or is it still? Is there any pain or stiffness, or so you're just getting them to just dig deep into their attention and mindfulness of their toes. And then you move to the foot, and then to the ankle, and to the calf, to the shin. So you just slowly and repetitiously and just work through each of the areas, just like you're taking, like I said, you're just taking a trip. There's a starting point and there's an ending point, and you're going to do everything in between. And so it just brings their attention. Now, if I do it with an adult, which I do sometimes, then I might tell them in advance that, if they find that they get to a space that's really challenging, say the shoulders, because a lot of adults hold tension in their shoulders, that if they're really getting in and investigating that space and trying to breathe in, softening to release that tension, that they might not hear the guidance that's moved them onto their torso or to their back, that they might need to give some more attention to a particular space before moving on. But for the kids, I just have them take the journey, just have them take each of those. And then for the kids who maybe are struggling with focus or attention, because it's repetitive and because it's almost, like I said, rhythmic, you're constantly bringing them back to the tool, even if they get off task, like off into the thinking or whatever it is that pulled them away.
I like that. And I have a question that kind of came up with what you just said. can you, or do people, I'd assume you can, but is it a practice to mix? Like if you're, say you're doing a body scan and then you start to wander, like, would you just try to bring yourself back to the body scan, or could you say, oh, wait, I'm thinking, let me bring it back, and like kind of then label it? You know what I mean?
I wouldn't necessarily do the labeling tool unless that is like the tool that you're doing to be mindful of your present moment. So you wouldn't do more than one at a time. But when I was saying that, like, sometimes you have to have like backups, that's like if one isn't working. So, for example, sometimes, because I like to use my breath as my anchor, that's like my main anchor, which I find funny now because at the beginning I couldn't do it. But that's like my main anchor is my breath. But if I'm in the middle of a meditation and I'm finding that I keep getting distracted, whether it's with the sounds or maybe it's with the fact that there's a ceiling fan on and I constantly feeling like I'm being pulled away from my breath, I might change the tool that I'm using. So once I was in a meditation and the person I was meditating with had like a bird in their space, like a parrot or something in their parakeet in their meditation space. And so I just kept getting pulled away from my breath because of the sound. It wasn't like a sound that I was judging as bad or good or anything. It was actually pretty pleasant, but it wasn't, my attention just naturally just kept going to it. So then I was like, why would I sit here and try and fight to get myself back to the breath, back to the breath? I just use mindful listening instead and just listen to the bird and the spaces between the sounds that the bird was making, and I was fine. But if you're doing like a body scan, you're doing that particular action, that doesn't mean you're not your thoughts aren't going to, you know, drift off and come in. They might, but you just notice it. You notice that the thinkings come in. Oh, okay. And then let it go and come back to the body scan. Now, if you're being guided through a body scan, like my class, I guide them through it. They're not guiding themselves. Then that's going to be a natural pull back to that tool because they're hear me say, all right, now bring your attention to your knees. What do
Right.
you notice? But if
Yeah.
you were doing it for yourself as a tool, then you just have to bring your full awareness and notice whatever comes up and then just bring you back to whatever your tool is in the moment.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Cool. I like that. I like all of these. I think they're all, I see the benefit in all of them, and they appeal to different people because they're similar in that they're mindful, but they're very different in what you're focusing on and how you're being mindful. So I love this, and I just think it's phenomenal and can help. There's something here for everyone.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
I want to thank you because this is your area of expertise. So I want to thank you for bringing this to me and to our listeners because it's phenomenal. And Eileen, is there anything that you want to end with, or?
No, we have a few more mindfulness tools that we can talk about, not next time, but the time after, because we're going to have a guest next week.
Next
A
week?
very special episode next week, which hopefully everyone will really enjoy. I'm sorry, but I'm very much looking forward to it because you know why. But I'm like, I just can't even imagine what this is all going to play out to look and sound like. So I'm very excited.
Pick.
So excited. But now just grateful for everybody listening, for people who are coming into our group and asking questions or giving feedback, whether it be in YouTube or in the Facebook group. And so just grateful for everyone.
Me as well. I'm always very grateful for our listeners. Thank you for your support, and we will see you next time.